Well, today I kind of feel like maybe I might be peeing into the wind here on these carbs. I don't want to break them, and I don't want to really spend a couple $100 on rebuild kits, even if I could get them completely apart. But everything on these are really stuck. And I mean, I'm not planning on reusing them anyway. These are, of course, the one-off year for carburetors on these things. These had no adjustable jet, and everything is really gummed up from sitting. Now the screws even wanted to come out. I did get most of the screws out, but I can't get the float bowl off because the main jet here, the O-ring, is completely stuck in there. I've tried everything. I've tried impact screwdrivers, vice grips. I can get it to turn a little bit, but probably not enough to get it off. So all I'm doing really is killing gaskets and seals at this point. I'm not quite sure at this point why I'm even doing all this. I don't plan on reusing these carbs anytime in the near future. I mean, I will definitely hang on to them, but I soaked everything as best I could, and it has not really helped any. So I'm thinking if I'm going to even try anything, I will try to do best I can at cleaning up the jet from above. I don't know how much that's going to help, if I can even do anything with it. Both of these have completely, well, the other one's even worse. This one had a stuck piston. I was able to get that freed up pretty easily. The starter box here is stuck on both of them, which again is a pretty common problem on these when they've been sitting. Fuel in there just turns into glue. So if I can get this off and free it up, maybe we can still try them. I don't know. It's even, like I said, if it's even worth it. I don't know. Oh, got it off. That's a big start. Gummy, gummy, gummy. So let me clean this up the best we can, and we'll put it back together. Well, we do have the starter box moving okay, which we put back on, got that all cleaned up. The starter box basically basically as a choke. You can see these screw heads on this thing are really butchered up. The top of this carburetor here was not in the proper orientation. I'm not sure how critical that is, but when I took it off, it definitely was not facing the way it is now, which there are witness marks on the back of these for lining them up. As I said, all the screws were in pretty bad shape on this. But here's an interesting little tidbit. There are 3, I think that's a number 2, maybe I grabbed the wrong one, but looks like a number 1. 3 different screwdrivers that look very similar. Standard Phillips. Posi drive, which is what these screws are, a little bit different. And Japanese Industrial Standard, which is great for working on Japanese motorcycles and cars. But as I said, you can go crazy with tools. We're going to put this one back together. Now, my question to you is, should we even bother putting these back on the car and trying to start it? I don't know if any of that's going to happen. And speaking of that, I wanted to run something down that jet, so I'm going to pop this back off of here and see if I can get anything down in that jet. Yeah, I ran a piece of cable down into that jet. Seems pretty clear. As I said, I couldn't even get these screws off of here. Not that there's any real reason. I'm not changing this diaphragm, but I did want to show you this. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's the tab that's supposed to slide into that slot, but it's pretty much non-existent. It looks to me like whoever put this together last time, which was not me, did not really care so much about putting it back together correctly. Now, from what I remember, the car actually ran pretty well. So that's why I said sometimes I wonder how important some of this stuff really is. Okay, so we will put the tab back as close as I possibly can to where it's supposed to be. One nice thing about an old diaphragm, it always goes in easily. And there's our little witness mark. There's a witness mark. And let's not forget the spring. Be kind of disappointing. And I'll put this back together, tighten up a bunch of screws, and put this off to the side and see if there's any chance of doing anything with the other one. Now here's the other carb. I started soaking what I could yesterday. I'm going to take this off, get the piston. I got the piston moving somewhat, needs to be cleaned up. I want to get the starter box moving if I can. Like I said, if anybody on there wants to explain to me why I'm doing this, I would love to know, because I really don't know why. It's not like I really have a ton of time to waste, but for some reason there's just something in me that wants to hear this car run one time before I completely take it apart again. I mean, the engine is going to come apart. I'm going to do some modifications to it, even though I think it's in very good shape, but we won't know that for sure until I take it apart and check everything. But you know, the seals and stuff are pretty old, so I'm sure at the very least that all has to be handled. I honestly don't remember everything I did to that. There's the starter box. And this one's gummier than the last one. Again, not surprised. Let's put that off to the side for now. Let's get the diaphragm out. And this one is not, the witness marks on the top of this one are not lined up either. Oh, by the way, I don't know if I pointed this out. This is, of course, one of the typical of these early TR6s. This carburetor, this design, was only used 1 year because it was such a joke. Has non-adjustable jets, completely non-adjustable. So they only used it for 1 year. And that's, of course, what's making part of this a problem to get it apart. That's not something I've ever run into before. I'm going to guess that the needle on the bottom of this piston is stuck in the jet. I told you this one's in worse shape. You just never know what you're going to find. And I know that I'm kind of kidding myself if I think I have any chance of getting that jet out of there. And unfortunately, you can't turn. If I don't get that jet out of there because it's stuck, I'm not going to get this float bowl off of there either. Yep. Well. Isn't that just wonderful? Well, got the piston out, and I was right. It was just hanging up on all this nice crap. Like I said, this is really just an exercise in futility. But this is the part that amazes me, because this carburetor is really hung up pretty bad on everything, even compared to the other one. But the jet did come out. It didn't come out easy. And of course, here's the culprit on the other one, is this O-ring. I'm sure is completely stuck in there. But that one did come out. So that means I should be able to get the float bowl off and see how bad everything is in there. I did soak these things starting yesterday, all the screw holes and all that stuff, to try to make everything free. And I said, now we got the piston moving. I got the throttle plates moving. We will still have to get the starter box moving. And of course, when I was ordering parts for this, I couldn't order. As always, you forget one part, and I wouldn't mind having the other clip for the throttle, for the choke cable. I would have ordered that also, but of course I forgot to. I usually make myself a list as I'm going, writing stuff down that I need. You see how nice these are coming out? Soaking them for 24 hours in some nice penetrating oil. Not WD-40, penetrating oil. I think any good quality penetrating oil will help a lot in situations like this. I soaked everything, including what I could get to on the jet. So I guess we will certainly find out if this float is even moving. That's, of course, a big concern I have on the other one, because since I couldn't get the float bowl off, I don't even know if the float is movable. Whenever you set these down, any carburetor for that matter, if you're going to set them down with the throttle plate down, make sure there's nothing like a linkage that will push against the bench and push it open, because you will bend that very easily. See right there, it's flat. This is off to the side. Good practice. See, take that out, comes off nice and easy. Now, I have no idea about that jet. Excuse me, I'm sorry, the needle seat. The jet is actually, I mean, it's dirty. I can see it's dirty, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So let me pull this out, clean it up as best we can. The other one's going to be a problem child because I can't get it out. At least I haven't been able to get it out yet. So let me pop this one out. We'll see what we got. All right, that's what we got. This is the second carb. It is back together. Again, when we went so far with it, cleaned the jet, got the throttle plates moving nice, got the starter valve moving, got the piston moving. So without putting any parts into it and taking it completely apart to clean it, which would require putting new parts into it, it's about as good as I can get it. So my question to you guys today is, do we put them back on and see if there's any chance this thing will start? See, emission control, which is kind of funny. That's what this whole jet thing was about, is emissions here in the US. But in 1969, there really wasn't any emissions on this car. They didn't really come out in about 73 or 74 as true emissions on these cars. But that is an emission idea they had, which did not work. So I don't know. I would expect, and this is kind of what I will expect if we do this, and I don't know why I put these back on to try to see if it'll start when I'm going to be pulling the engine apart anyway. And it's not going to be carbureted anymore. It's going to be fuel injected. I'm going to expect that we'll probably end up with a pretty good leak around the jets and the float bowl on these carbs. Because this one here, it did come out, but the O-ring is like a brick. The other one, I couldn't even get out, so I did get them somewhat clean. I ran some carburetor cleaning brushes down that I have for motorcycles, and let's put them back on. We'll dump a little fuel into them and see if they leak like a sieve, like I'm kind of expecting. Here's actually a good example. I hope you can see it. These are new screws that I got that hold the axles in of the MG Midget over there. And these are easily identified as posi drive because of those slight little hash marks in between the cross. That is the sign of a posi drive. I don't know if you can see it or not. Well, if you can't, sorry. But you can also see, if you have a clean screwdriver, there's little tabs in between the posi drive blades also. They don't really do anything, but it does indicate what it is.